Yeah, that's what I do call him that sometimes.
Well, yeah. Oh, he's so handsome. Look at that
Yeah.
chin.
Yeah, look at this boy who's joining us for Terminator 2. This is Jeff, and I have my cat named Sid, and I'm also joined by Kevin this week again. And we watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day, especially if you haven't checked out Kevin's awesome background that he put together for the show here. Now, I have my Terminator. Do you have anything going on before we get into the film?
No, my snorinator's inside the house. I don't let Lucy out here while I'm recording.
Yep,
Like all you would
good
hear is
call.
like, well, like there's nothing like putting on a show and talking and hearing
Yeah.
snoring in the background. It's just like, oh God, is he boring somebody in his house even?
Right? Like the worst he does is he just purrs and he might pop his head up here and there. So he doesn't really bother us when we record. So it's like I'll keep him in on this round. But now we were talking before we started recording here about like how we watched this movie when we were kids and how we thought like this is a great popcorn movie. But the second you start to think about it, it's really not as good as you might think it is. Yeah, there are good moments in this movie for me, but at times it's I don't know. There's a lot of like pacing issues, a little bit of logic. There's continuity errors. If you watch this movie more than 5 times, you start to see that window was broken in the last scene. Why is it now fixed? Or that window wasn't there before. Now it's there again. So,
It's because of them fucking up with the time stream and stuff. So it's like, Windows just randomly popping up from another multiverse.
oh God, right? Like the whole some of the time things kind of bother me. Like I'll just go ahead and say it. The ending really bothers me because okay, you killed the liquid Terminator, the T-1000, and then you get rid of Arnold and the arm and the chip from the first movie. Why don't you have his hand that was lodged in the gear at the beginning of this whole sequence when they got into the steel thing and he got his arm jammed and it cut off his hand? You're still missing the other piece of the Terminator.
Oh, oh, that's right. In the what was it, the giant cog or whatever?
Exactly. His
That's right.
hand
That's
and
right.
forearm are still there. So they may not have the chip, but if they had any redundancies for the software and all the data that they had going on at Cyberdyne, if they had that hand back, they could basically keep going.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a like I said, once you start to think about the movie, it kind of starts to unravel. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, there's a lot to get into about things that are completely wrong and don't work. But if you want a popcorn movie, this is the best popcorn movie you could probably jam to, as long as you watch the theatrical one. You watch the extended version, it's like an extra half an hour, and you're already talking close to 3 hours.
Yeah, but see, because the version that I watched
Hmm.
had all the deleted scenes put back into it.
Oh, you
And
watched the extended version then. I watched the theatrical.
yeah, but they cut out Hasta la Vista, baby.
They
So
did?
yeah, so they had
Oh,
the
now I'm
scene
gonna have
where
to
like
watch that.
where Sarah, it's on my Plex server, so look for it there.
Okay.
Sarah's in Pescadero at the asylum, and she has a vision or a dream of Kyle coming to visit her and basically telling her to go get
Right.
John. You can't stay here. And that actually it made the story make more sense for Sarah, like where
Okay.
she is in the movie. And they cut it out for pacing, like you said, sure, but they took out a big chunk of story there and left in a bunch of explosions. So I was kind of like, what they took out was pretty important.
Oh no, there is the I watched it on my Blu-ray. I do have the unrated special cut on here. I didn't watch it. It looks like it's only 16 minutes more. I thought it was more than that. Oh, okay. I guess I
I
could have
mean,
watched that then.
the scene did seem like it was 16 minutes, but
Yeah.
it was just it was tying Michael Bean into it. It was nice to see him again.
Well, yeah, that's
Uh
what I thought was just going straight with the theatrical. That's what I felt was missing. Is like there's like, yeah, you keep talking about Kyle, but you ain't shown him worth a damn in any regard.
yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, Kyle Reese was a uh more of an ideology than he
Yeah,
was a person to look back at. and
right.
and that's he gets put up on a pedestal by Sarah. And I get that. That's part of the story, but
Right.
it was 48 minutes and sex with some homeless guy's poopy underpants.
Call back.
Yes. uh, what this movie did for me anyway is we talked a bit about it last week. Is it reinvented the whole franchise?
Right.
Like Arnold was the good guy, like the action star of the time. It was long before we had The Rock.
Bad
Um,
guy.
yeah, but they had to tone down the violence so much. Like the political climate changed from 1984 to 1991, of course.
Oh yeah, it
Uh,
did.
and that's when the parental advisory started coming out on all your CDs.
Right.
Uh, we'll call her out for what it is. Tipper Gore did all that and was talking about pearl clutching for the children and shit.
Yeah.
And some of it, sure. The rest of it, no, not so much. You're fucking with businesses.
Yeah, pretty
Uh,
much.
so in this, there is like a small fraction of the violence that you'd see in the first movie, but
Right.
it's like 10 times more exciting at the same time, too.
Well, yeah, and by virtue, they also took quite a bit of like what would be horror from the first movie is now almost nearly removed. You get a little bit here and there, not of sort of like the graphic nature, but of the haunting things, things that would like, God damn, that's scary shit. Like they at least they made the T-1000 scary in presence and in
Yeah.
some of his kills, but they're not nearly as like vicious and brutal. And you kind of miss the whole kind of like the slasher movie. You kind of miss the stalkerish sort of overtones that the first one had, where the relentless pursuit and killing. This one felt more definitely action packed, less on the horror. I kind of look at T2 as like what he did with like the Aliens franchise. He scaled back the horror and introduced more action. I look at it, he's trying to evolve the franchise. He doesn't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I totally get that. Whereas I think he did pretty good with Aliens. I kind of feel like this one was a bit of a step back from the first one, only because I love the first one so much. But this is still a pretty damn good movie. I just feel like there should have been a little more of the horror involved in this. But at the very end, when the when the T2 gets blown up by a shell and he's all like contorted like the Thing out of John Carpenter's The Thing, I'm just like, okay. And the way it was like squealing in agony, that totally worked for me. And so it kind of comes back around at the end.
Yeah, I have a note written down. Thump gun. Surprise!
Bang, baby.
Where I saw the most horror is when they dropped the T-1000 into the smelting bin,
Yes.
and he starts, like you said, making those horrible screeching sounds, and then he starts turning into everybody that he assimilated,
Yeah,
and it was
almost everybody. I think there might have been one they didn't do, but or I
yeah,
wasn't paying enough attention, which is
yeah,
possible.
it could have been shit. For all we know, the cop that he was supposed to have been, Robert Patrick's face could have been one of those people too.
Right.
Uh, but the squealing, the screeching, the grinding sound at the same time that it was making, it reminded me a lot of like when Freddy would pull up his shirt and you'd see the souls of all his victims in his belly or his chest.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the face, when it kind of goes away, it melts down into this metal type face, and then like floats away in bubbles and waves.
Yeah.
That was horrifically beautiful. I liked that
That
part.
was pretty dope. I really like that death scene. Like, I think after years of watching like other movies and how they kill like in a similar nature, how they do the final kill for like the bad guy or whatever, it's like, man, this is kind of in hindsight, this is kind of a basic kill, but it's still pretty damn good. I mean, you kind of watching it now with like 2022, and you're like, man, I've seen bastards get blown up or thrown in a wood chipper. It's kind of like you can't untrain your what you've
X
seen
Force.
now, but yeah, I know, right? So that's pretty funny for me, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I liked that. This movie was like it was a turning point for action flicks.
Oh, yes, it was.
It was where they started being less cliche.
Yeah,
And well, no, there was still a lot of cliche in this, but there was a little bit more substance to this movie, with
yeah,
themes that you don't get in most action flicks.
no,
And that's carried over through the first two movies and then the TV series. But uh, I don't know. It's the themes of fate and being able to change things that they did well with this. They don't do it too much. It's something you certainly wouldn't see. Fatalism, and time is generally not something you'd seen in an action flick outside of like Time Cop,
right.
which was not a good movie anyway. So
I
I
like
mean,
that one. I know it's not a good movie, but I like it.
I like the idea of the bad guy touching himself and then like two objects of the same matter not being able to occupy the same space.
Right.
That was that was a keen kill.
Yeah.
But with this, they took those kills away. They put in more of a theme, and the kills that you do see aren't, like you said, they're not as graphic. You don't have the latex. You don't have all the blood.
Right.
There's like little drips of blood. Arnold, of course, doesn't kill anybody. All
Yeah.
of his kills are non lethal, which is funny because when he's shooting that Gatling gun, like that would just tear apart everything it touched.
Oh, I know, right?
um, but yeah, I don't know. The special effects made up for a lot of what they cut out in violence, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't need a violent movie, but it helps.
Yeah, I mean, this did have enough moments to keep it moving forward, and at least it opened up for more mainstream audience to check out Terminator. Like you can jump, I do feel like you can jump into Terminator 2 without having seen Terminator 1, and you don't feel like you are missing too much. To me, I'd almost say T1 feels like a prologue, and then T2 is like the main story he really wanted to get to. After this, Jimmy, or I'm sorry, I say Jimmy C because he's got Avatar 2 coming out. So he's in like full high mode, and other pundits are calling him Jimmy C. So it's kind of sticking with me. But I think like if he had stuck around and not been more of the producer, or just, hey, just send me my check, put my name on there, and I'm done. If he had been a little more involved with like T3, I think that would have been a much better movie. A little more involved on T4, I think that would have been an awesome movie. I won't even talk about the other two.
I've not seen anything beyond three, and like I said, I'm sorry that I saw three. If anything, three is good to watch if you need to appreciate the first two. If you don't appreciate those two
Yeah.
enough, watch three. Because they throw everything out the window, like everything that's
Oh,
good,
yeah.
right out the window.
Well, for the longest time, I thought T3 tried to make sense of T2, and so therefore I liked Terminator 3 more than T2. Having watched Terminator 2 now again, and then I did do a follow-up with Terminator 3. Yeah, I was completely wrong in my assessment of that. T3 it has a couple moments, but it is very lacking in almost every regard and tries to retcon just way too much. Just way too much. And the worst part is giving Arnold the cowboy voice, or the gimmicky voice that they did, because they had the demo reel of how the Terminator, oh, they loved the body, but they hated the voice. I'm like, no, that joke don't work for me.
No, no, not at all. Like,
The only thing I liked was all the nukes going off at the end of T3. Whereas with
yeah,
Terminator 2, I could be like, I like about 70% of this, no problem. And it's the flip end on T3. I'm like, wow, I only like about 30% of this movie now. God, that doesn't age well.
the best thing you could do at that scene is turn the volume down and turn on Weird Al Yankovic's "Christmas at Ground Zero."
Ooh,
That
nice
just
touch.
makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
But getting back to T2 and
Yes.
their nuclear scene, that was some shit.
That was
Like
some badass stuff right there.
even today, that scene is amazing and brutal to watch. Like It looks just like something you'd see with Fallout and just multiple blasts, people turning into ashes. Fucking grisly shit.
Yeah, that still ages very well on my Blu-ray that I have. And everything looked really, really good. There was only a couple of times I thought the graphics were a little eh, but you're talking about a movie from like the fucking 90s. Like, what more do you want? And it doesn't, that was still at the cusp of like CGI. And even back then, this was top notch. I mean,
Oh, I want to say this was like the birth of CGI in a way.
of what it
Like,
could be.
yeah, like a lot of things stemmed from how they made the T1000.
Yes.
And I liked how they tried to hide what the T1000 is for a little bit. They tried having this like suspense game of who is the good guy, who is the bad guy, who's going to get to John first.
It didn't last very long, but yeah,
No, and you already know Arnold's the fucking good guy, so it's like they
that's what
told you
they did
that.
in the trailers. Yeah, they're like, and then the bad one comes along and come with me if you want to live. It's like,
Yeah.
when he's saying that he's the good one because that was the way it was in the first one. You could, even not knowing the franchise, you could be like, come with me if you want to live. Okay, you ruined half the movie and your suspense for who's the good and bad guy, but it doesn't matter really.
No, that hallway scene is still fantastic. It's
Oh, it
still
was
like
awesome, dude. Yeah.
there's not many words to describe it outside of like epic and iconic.
Yeah.
Uh the music was perfect for it. It
It
was
was well shot.
very well shot. I mean, that
Yes.
hallway scene, the fucking guy flipping out and accidentally getting shot. And then
Mm-hmm.
what they did to hide the T1000, but then heighten him at the same time, is use practical effects mixed in with the CGI. Like each time
Yes.
he'd be shot, it was basically big plastic, like
Yeah.
metal looking pieces on his chest.
You could tell now, yeah.
Yeah, like it's very fake. But at the time, you're like, oh my God, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, my memory, like I saw this in the theaters. My memory is when I saw this in the theater, almost all of us were like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
And
like everybody when I was a kid was just fucking blown away.
this was and when we were kids, this movie was literally the bomb.
Yeah, this was the movie that you would turn on in your VHS collection when your
Yes.
friends would come over and you wanted to watch something awesome. Like
Yes.
T2 was the answer until Speed came out, which was only good once, but
For me, it was either this or Predator for balls out action movie. Or RoboCop. Like of
yeah,
it's these three were the holy trinity of action movies for quite a few of us as kids.
I would say so. And they all eventually became great comic books with Dark Horse anyway.
That's true.
Uh
Oh, and a great video game, RoboCop versus Terminator. I had it on Sega Game Gear.
really?
Yep.
I did not play that. I did play the Alien vs Predator arcade game. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that was pretty dope. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of arcade games and getting back all to all the violence and
Oh,
shit,
T2. Ooh.
T2, what an iconic game.
Oh, I love that game. If I ever owned an arcade system, I would want that goddamn cabinet with the railgun and just go boom straight through.
Yes, and I would find a way to like increase the vibrating feature in it so when you're shooting it's just really railing on you. But
I
that game
forgot
was
about that till you
so
start bringing up arcade games. I love that game.
yes. Well, I mean, arcades were so fantastic, and the fact that they had that scene in
Yeah.
the arcade in general, just for the hallway scene,
Oh yeah.
kind of makes you nostalgic for that. And then once you
Right.
get to that minigun scene, then you start having flashbacks going, oh shit, I remember doing that in the game and
Yep.
getting like you lose life if you killed the cop.
Yeah.
It's like, well, get out of the fucking way.
Yeah, right. I tried to catch other games that were in the arcade, but I was just I don't know. I watching this again, I was just like all in on just watching the movie.
I
So
just
I
remember
wasn't
John.
looking for like Easter eggs. So
No, I don't think there were any Easter eggs. Like, I think it was all like sponsorship, like
I think there
Pepsi,
was one or two games
Sega.
I recognized. Yeah, yeah. And that
Afterburner
was
was
about
one.
it. Yep. Yep.
Uh, which that scene in part three, he was supposed to apparently go from the mall to this party with the redhead dude and meet Claire Danes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You could tell they were making shit up at that point because like they had no intention of going to a party, and they were also like 13. So, and that was another thing that makes this a little bit harder to watch as an adult. Like when you're like, I am the same age as Eddie Furlong, so it's like
Oh yeah.
it was cool for me. It's what the comic book industry wanted, like Robin to be or any other sidekick, a way to be able to relate to the character, to be able to imagine that you have your own pet Terminator or whatever you. And looking back on it, Furlong's dialogue was not that great. Like there was
Yeah,
just
I don't think he was scripted the best. I think he acted very good for a child actor at that time. Even as an adult looking back, I'm like, no, dude did fine. He was just fine. They just gave him some really weird dialogue at times, what let alone a little wonky or dry.
I think Hollywood fucked him in a bad way.
Oh, well, yeah,
Like
that's clear.
he he was a breakthrough star.
Oh
Like
yeah.
somebody just randomly saw him at a YMCA, I heard, and basically asked him to come audition.
Hmm.
But then they started just immediately putting him in like Teen Bop magazines and in horror films here and this and that, and they gave him everything.
Oh yeah.
And when you do that to somebody so young, they get the vices because, of course, Hollywood wants you to work late, get up early,
Yeah.
and I think Hollywood just chewed the poor guy out or chewed the poor guy up. Sorry,
Yeah.
I mean he's not a bad actor. God help
No.
him if you've ever seen The Crow 4. The movie is horrible, but he does okay.
Yeah, I agree. Horrible freaking movie, but he did pretty good for what he was trying to do.
They sold me at him. They
Yeah.
lost me at Tara Reid. um,
Yeah.
but no,
At least
it's
she wasn't in this movie.
no. And this is one of those few movies that does not have any like romantic interest to it. Maybe that's why they cut out Kyle.
Yeah, well, that
Like,
and clearly, John Connor, Eddie Furlong was looking at Arnold and the T at him as like a father figure. That was pretty clear for most of the movie. I think they took out any sort of Kyle Reese just to not have that kind of competitive thought in people's mind on, oh yeah, we got to keep remembering Kyle. You can keep mentioning him and remembering that way. The second you see him on screen, you're already like, well, why don't they talk more about him then and focus more on the loss of the dad, not having a dad, blah, blah, blah. Well, he had horrible stepdad. Arnold is as a father figure, not replacing his dad, but and then you introduce a third element with Kyle again being on screen. I mean, that could be really this seems like a bit much. Like you're convoluting it, making it a little too complicated. So I do like they went the simple route, but I also like Kyle Reese and Michael Biehn, so that would have been
yeah,
cool.
he'll always be one of my favorite actors. Like I've never seen him in a bad role ever.
I don't
Ever.
know. Yeah, that's the thing. I was trying to one. I didn't really research. This is just a thought off the top of my head right now. I was like, man, why he didn't become an even bigger star is beyond me. Because Michael
Yeah.
Biehn, I think, is fantastic. So I really don't. I don't know the story. I didn't do any research, but I'm like, I don't know why that man did not get way more credit. Because yes, he was a support character. Could he be a lead? Could he not be a lead? I don't know. That's not for us. He never got a chance. So, I mean, his closest shot was what, like the
Tombstone.
first Terminator, Tombstone, and like what, Aliens 2? I mean,
Yeah. But I mean, in all fairness, he deserved a fucking Oscar for his role in Tombstone as Johnny
yes, he
Ringo.
did.
Like he was scary.
Yep.
Like for a guy that you've grown up looking at as a hero, he was scary.
Yeah,
um, and then once upon a time, he was scheduled or attached to be playing Cyclops in an X-Men movie.
he was.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
unfortunately, that never came to be.
That's too
He and
bad.
Peace Stew were always the two that were connected to it. And of course, Patrick Stewart obviously stayed.
Right.
And I don't know what happened with Michael Biehn. and
Yeah.
we saw what happened with that movie. So wasn't as good, but Cyclops wasn't written very well anyway. So maybe he looked at it and said, "This is trash."
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, I mean, some people just don't want to have their names attached to crap.
Yeah. Well, hey, good. Be picky. You've earned that right. You're not exactly just breaking into the industry and you're just taking whatever role you can get your hands on.
Yeah. Same with Sean Bean. Same way. Why isn't he more fucking movies? No relation, kids.
Because he
But
gets killed killed in everything else.
because he fucked over James Bond.
Number 6 or 006.
um, the question that I had written down for you
What
is,
you got?
do you think the franchise should have ended here? And I think we've kind of already answered it. But do you think that it would have been just fine had they left it here?
I think so. I do like that we got the television show, and as we're going to get to season 2 coming up on the podcast, but as far as the movie franchise, yeah, we probably should have put a cap on the Terminator franchise here, because even Arnold has been like, yeah, I've come back, I thought this would be a good one. It didn't turn out to be such, or the original script was completely different. So you even got like him talking like, I don't know. And so I don't know. My personal opinion is should have ended here. What do you think?
I think so. Just like you said, as far as movies go, this was a final bow, a
And on
nice
a
final
fucking
bow.
high note, yeah.
And this is very much kind of like how we've talked about like Godfather 2, House 2, where you have a sequel that's actually just as good, if not better, than the original.
Exactly.
Um, and I can't say if this is better or worse, but it was bigger than the original. It was certainly
Oh
that.
yeah. And it's basically a different film. It's not exactly the same as the first one.
Yeah, but I do like the TV series. I really
Yes,
like the TV series. The other movies, not so much, but the TV series stays so close to the source material that it's very easy to understand who the different characters are. Enrique, from the dude that she went down to Mexico to live with, he's in that.
yep,
We see him briefly in this when they go down to Mexico, which
exactly.
they were driving the fucking oh god, I can't even think of their name. The Griswold station wagon
Yeah,
on
that's
the
what
way
it seemed like. Yeah. I'm like, man, we're about to watch that soon too in this house.
and
I'm gonna be seeing that a lot in a few of these
they're
movies.
driving down to Mexico. Sarah's probably drinking. John's bored in the back seat, and all I could think of is Holiday Row. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there's so much that they take from this movie. They take Miles Dyson. They
Yeah,
take everything from Cyberdyne. You
yes.
know, Cyberdyne kind of gets swept away, but um, they did it justice. None of the characters are rewritten any differently than they were before.
No.
Uh, well, John has better
They're a
dialogue.
little more evolved. Yeah. Like they've
Yeah,
learned from the events of T2.
yeah, and I they left two off good enough to where like you don't wonder what happened to them after they
Right.
win. Uh, and I think everything that came after it, specifically starting with part 3, was just milking a dead cow. And
Moo.
I think the rest of it diminished what 1 and 2 had set up and what they meant for cinema history.
Yeah.
Like the stupider they get and the longer they go on, the less you're willing to go back and look at a Terminator movie, regardless of
Right.
what it is. And so that's why I think they should have stopped. Like it was perfect, for lack of a better term, for them.
Right. I know James Cameron felt like he could let somebody else drive the franchise, but I don't know. I think he should have kept the keys and been like, maybe I save this for like my final bow in cinema when I retire. Is like I'll do my Avatar ones eventually. I'll do Battle Angel Alita, which Robert Rodriguez ended up doing, unfortunately. But I mean, I like that movie, but James wanted to do that one for years, and he finally had to give that over to somebody else so he could work on Avatar. But I know he's got like 3 or 4 more of those Avatar movies, and he's said he's only going to do 5 or 6 more films before he calls it quits. Dude, come back, do Terminator Ends. I don't care. Like, if you want to end this the way it should be, you come back and you do this bad boy yourself.
I don't even want him to do that. Like, just leave
Well,
the
I think if
four
anybody
franchise
could,
alone.
it would be him. I mean, who
Oh,
else are you
sure.
gonna do? I mean, the only other option, and I wouldn't even do this, is Ridley Scott. Do the reverse of the Alien movies, where he comes in and and ends it for him, but really wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't even. I'm just throwing that out as half of a joke. Like, I mean, it'd be funny, but it ain't gonna happen. But I don't. Or
No,
give it to
no.
Denis Villeneuve of Blade Runner 2049 and Dune. I mean, make it like real high drama entertainment for a different level, like a completely different movie. But yeah, I think James, this is his baby. He created the Terminator. If he wants to end it, he should come back and end it for everybody.
You should.
Or just take
Just
solace in, hey, I created 2 Terminator movies. I'm pretty okay with that.
well, it's like Joel says about Mystery Science Theater. He's like, basically, he's very comfortable and satisfied the fact that he created this hit show. He doesn't need to be the star of it, and I think Cameron kind of feels the same way. Like I'm sure he's proud of the
Yeah,
first 2 movies, but he doesn't need to revisit it. Of course, I also
that's
think
cool
he's a
too.
perfectionist that thinks he's beyond it at this point.
Yeah,
And I'm going to guess that his producer role in T3 helped fund Avatar in a way.
true.
um, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to the Avatar movies whatsoever. I didn't like the first one. I think we talked about it before. It's basically Titanic in space with Pocahontas, and
Ferngully.
yeah,
I've heard that too.
no desire to support it in any way, shape, or form.
I'll probably see it. I don't know if I'll see it in theaters or home video, but eventually I'll see it just because I'm curious. I'm not a big fan of his newer movies for James Cameron, but they're not bad, but they're not exactly like mind blowing on the story level. I know he's even said like, I know what the complaints are about Avatar 1, and that's fine. And nothing in Hollywood is original anymore anyway. So
That's true.
that's really few and far between when you get original ideas. So hey, if you're gonna take an old idea, shine it up and people want to see it, hey, that's cool too. Just understand that it's not an original. Hey, from the mind of James Cameron, this is brand new story you've never heard of before. That's just not it.
Speaking of old fashioned, do you know how they did the special effects with the T1000 mimicking people?
I do not actually. I did not watch any of my special features, unfortunately.
Most people think it's that trick where one side of the screen is the actor and the other side of the screen is the same actor on a blue screen. But you don't see any blue screen in this movie. And the reason because is the security guard that he assimilated and Sarah Connor both have twins. So they took the oldest trick in the book and got actors that have twins. Linda Hamilton just happens to have a twin sister that is identical to her. So that's
Oh,
how they did that at the end, where he's telling her to call out to John, sticking her in the fucking chest and shit.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that part,
Oh, you mean
like,
when they meet up after that? Yeah.
yeah, where John can't figure out who's the T1000 and who's the mom. Like he should have just known my mom's a bitch and wouldn't fucking be nice to me whatsoever and just duck.
Well, that was a part I liked about the movie is like early on, he's calling home and he's like, oh, something's weird. She's way like stepmom. she's being way too nice to me right now. Something is wrong. And then give the phone to Arnold, and he's like,
What's wrong
she
with
she
Wolfie?
dead. And what's wrong? Yeah, like no, you don't go back there. We're not calling back again.
And that scene, not just being so cool, that scene became a meme that's still used today. Like,
Oh yeah,
how awesome is that scene? I
yeah,
mean, her just the mom throwing out her arm, and you're not really sure what happens, but then you see Todd having the milk and the fucking arm go
exactly.
through his face.
Got milk.
uh, oh, and that was another one of the deleted scenes. I want to say he goes out and he kills the dog and finds the collar on the dog that didn't say Woofy on it, so he knew that he just got figured out.
Okay. It's been a
Yeah,
while since I've even seen the extended version. You're talking like years ago on, I think, VHS tape or something.
that was back when I used to drink.
Back when they
um,
were two VHS tapes and you had to swap out.
oh, that was cool. Intermission time. Let's go pee.
Yep.
Yeah, but this again, I don't mind revisiting this movie here and there. It's been far too long since I have.
I know. Yeah, that's how I felt when I was like, God, I haven't seen this in so long. I felt like I didn't like it as much as I thought I did. And then watching it again, I'm like, you know what? I should watch this more often. It's
It's
been just
hard to
way too
say.
long. I feel it's like the part of the problem for me is I saw this so many times in like high school and then college. And then somewhere in college, I stopped watching this. And then T3 came out and then blah, 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 blah until now. But now I'm watching it. I'm like, God, it's been way too long since I've seen this movie. It's really not as bad as I thought it was. It really isn't. It's just a
No.
popcorn movie. You just turn the brain off, grab a beer, have some snacks, have a good time.
Watch mindless violence there where nobody actually gets killed.
Yeah.
um, which I mean, that's fine. This is one of those types of movies like we talked about with Army of Darkness versus Evil Dead. I don't
Yes.
mind my son watching this so much. There's not gore spatter everywhere.
Oh, limbs aren't flying everywhere. They're just getting
Yeah.
caught in gears, that's all.
I mean, yes, you do see the T-800 and they are really terrifying looking.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but I don't think without all that blood that it would affect my kids anyway at all.
No, it would have been funny if it was like black oil like gooing out from from the joints from when Arnold lost his hand.
Like Willy's Wonderland, every time Nick Cage beats the shit out of one of the puppets.
Yep.
Oh, love that movie. But yeah, they could have done more with the violence. They didn't have to, so I guess they didn't.
Yeah.
I don't
They
think
could
this
have cut
movie.
out some of the slower parts. There's things you could do with this movie. If there's a
There
super
was
fan at it, that'd be cool too. I mean,
well, it's like I said when we first hopped online. I wish there was a way to like fast forward through all the driving scenes and
yep.
to like just watch the story. Because
And we're
outside,
driving again.
yeah, like outside of the motorcycle chase,
Yes.
there's a lot of driving in here that you just don't care about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the very few things outside of the dialogue that I could complain about this movie, and that's a very minimal gripe.
Yeah. I mean, they did have like character development in those scenes, but you didn't really need all of it as my would be my point. Like they had chemistry going on and you learned bits and pieces here and there. Some of those quieter, smaller moments just went on to more and more quieter, smaller moments until you finally got to the storm. You didn't need to keep dragging that out, but the second you start picking apart the movie, then you're not really doing what the movie intended you to do, and that's just sit back, turn the brain off.
Yeah, and well, it doesn't bother me to the point that it makes the movie bad for me in any way or it taints the movie
Right.
for me. But a product for its time, this was still for where we are in our society, very dark ages for mental health
Yeah.
and sanitariums. Like they do nothing but make fun of Sarah at Pescadero, calling her loopy and stuff. And
Oh, and licking her face like the creep did. Oh, I'm like, dude, you are so getting killed."
yeah, I'm not gonna say the R word, but it was a little E.
Yeah,
Um, that was gross,
I
obviously,
know.
but like they treated all those patients like shit.
Yep.
Like running the nightstick on the doors and stuff to keep everybody awake. Like you really couldn't wait for that guy to die, like you said.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I wish she would have pumped Silberman with fucking bleach.
I was waiting for that to happen. I completely forgot about that particular part. I'm like,
That
did she end up spiking him with that? Nope, she did not.
that would have made my millennium. Because
Well,
I
it's
don't like
great.
Dr.
Is
Silberman. Like
yeah.
clearly, you're not supposed to.
No, it was even great when he's like watching like the T-1000 walk through the bars and it's like, oh shit, she wasn't kidding. That's the second in the light bulb went above his head.
Yes, and then let's wait for our episode that comes out Wednesday because we talk about that in season 1.
Yeah.
Like that scene is described beat by beat, and they do a great job with it in the TV show.
Yeah.
So, again, Silverman does not get pumped full of bleach like I would have wanted, but when do I ever get what I want?
Yep. That would have been a pretty horrific sight to see.
I'm not a nice guy.
Total douche. He got what was coming in the show. So at least there was some call to that in the show.
Yeah. Now, I do like the actor that played him, and
Oh God, yeah.
he reprised the role 2 more times.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, once more after this,
Yeah, I was gonna
which
say.
again was fine. Silberman was like the reality, the anchor point of reality for the series.
Trying to be anyway.
Yeah, and you don't like him. It just
No.
didn't work. So
Totally unlikable. Even in the first one.
yeah, I mean, they were sitting there like joking about her and joking about Kyle, and he thinks this.
He's like, it's totally that. And it's not.
Yeah, but again, that other hallway scene where
Yeah.
Arnold's coming down the walkway, telling John to stay back. Sarah's flipping the fuck out. Linda Hamilton screaming in slow motion. I mean, you really felt what she was going through at that point. Like the
You felt
one
the
time I decided,
tension coming, yeah.
yeah, she finally decides to bust out, and there he is walking down the hallway. Like, fuck.
It's like, no, not that shit again. Now there's two of them. It's like that split second in her head of like, oh, I'm running from that. Oh shit, another one. I remember this one.
Yeah, like that one I remember he's fucked enough, and then now this one runs super fast. He's got ninja knives for arms. It's like, god damn.
He could look like me. I mean, shit. We're boned.
I think the T1000 was a great upgrade.
Yes, I completely agree. Robert Patrick,
Another
chef's
person that
kiss,
should
dude.
have been much, much more famous than what he became.
God, right?
Like he's again one of those people that you never see in a bad role. Even when he was playing Agent Doggett or
Yeah.
Doggett. Anyway, um,
Well,
like
he's
his
also in Peacemaker as John as Peacemaker's dad.
that's right.
The White Dragon.
That's right. Brandy told me about that. I still haven't
Total
watched it yet.
badass. But yeah.
No, he's a great actor. From what I understand, he's a great guy.
Yep.
Like, I would love to have seen him and still see him in more stuff because, like,
Oh yeah.
that cameo that he had in Wayne's World was one of the
Yep.
fucking coolest scenes I've ever seen.
Right.
Have you seen this boy? Um, he was
No.
creepy. He was
Yep.
creepy, and it kind of made you look at cops strangely too. more
Yeah, I would say
more so
so.
than usual. Of course, my dad was a cop when I saw this movie, so that was a little interesting too.
Oh yeah, right. It's funny, like Arnold's like not shooting everybody. He's putting caps in knees and and taking them out and debilitating them. I'm like, this is the greatest action scene where nobody died.
Yes. Like, I don't think there was another action scene that even compared to that until The Matrix came out.
Oh,
And
right.
like nothing else with everything getting blown the fuck up, the minigun spraying, the gas masks getting torn off, the smoke bombs everywhere. Well, that reminds me, I did have a story to tell. The like it was so fucking intense. There was always something happening that like one thing blew your mind, and something else bigger would happen, and something
Yep.
else bigger would happen after that. And it was just nonstop adrenaline.
Right.
And again, I don't think there was ever a movie that even had that type of scene in caliber or in length until the Matrix came out. And that hallway scene or them fighting all the cops was pretty goddamn cool as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which had worse special effects than this. Looking
Yeah.
back. Yeah. I know everyone was like, bullet time is so cool. No, it was all right one time, and then everyone else put it in their movies, and yeah.
The best place that did it was the Dread movie with Carl Urban.
Yes.
They
Which
use the slow motion excellently. So like some people understood how to make it work the best. Some mostly did not.
well, I think it's worth mentioning that Lena Headey is
Yes.
Mama that gets the slow motion death at the end.
It was so good. I love Dread. Not Judge Dredd with Stallone. I like Dread with Carl Urban. That's
God
awesome.
damn right. God damn right. Even
We'll
Tracy
do
said
that
the
in the
same.
future.
I think we're obligated to. I mean, the TV show got canceled before it even got filmed.
Yeah, Mega City 1. I don't know if it got put on hold permanently or if it just got straight up canceled, but that was being planned before, the pandemic all started. And then they finally pulled the plug. It's too bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't actually going to be a Dread centered show, but Dread would show up every now and then, which would have worked with Carl Urban's like shooting schedule. So he was totally on board with that. Just never came through. It's too bad.
Carl Urban can be anyone, but he would make another good fucking actor for a Terminator series
Ooh, I
or
agree.
movie. Just he could do anything and be anyone. Like mainly Clint Eastwood, but he could be anyone.
He should be okay. There is a problem I did have with T2 was like the older dude they had playing John Connor in the future did not work for me. Like watching like today with these eyes and things I've seen through the years, just seeing John Connor just standing around like
Yeah, looking with his fucking
one
binoculars and
face and
shit.
totally unimpressive or anything. I'm like, I don't care. You look focused. You look like a moron to me. Like it didn't work. Whoever they cast for that did not work for. I'm like, that is not an older John. An older John should be a little more in control, not focused and not, should be like talking to people, pointing, you go over here or something. Whoever they chose for that just didn't work for me. But Carl Urban as an older John Connor in the future that actually is doing all of the commanding. That would work for me.
I think so. Like he's one of the very rare actors anymore where it's like if he's coming out with a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a new Carl Urban flick I want to see. That
15
doesn't
years ago, I
happen
would have
much.
said he should have been a Terminator.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, until he would have seen that script. But we already talked about that shit.
Yeah.
Uh, no, but the gas mask scene
Yeah.
gives me flashbacks to when I was living down in Riverside.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I was working at a at a bowling alley, and this bowling alley was kind of in the middle of the hood, if you will. Um,
Ah,
and we had a lot of dangerous thugs that would play games there and shit. And I will say this: they were the nicest, coolest dudes that I'd ever gotten to hang out with down there. Like they were
oh good.
totally cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't there fucking with nobody. They that
They
was
just
their
wanted to
hangout.
chill. Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to go have a few beers, laugh, bowl, play some games. Sometimes they bring their kids with them and shit. But
Yeah.
no, one night one of the dudes has his girlfriend with him, and there's this little Asian guy that decides that he's gonna go be super macho and like flirt with this dude's fucking
Oh
girlfriend.
no.
And they really tried not to fight this kid. Like they kept pushing him away and telling him,
Like, go away.
yeah, because again, they don't want the cops called on him there.
Oh.
They just started to take the kid out in front of the front desk. Like two people grabbed him. He tries pulling out a can of fucking mace, and they smacked it out of his fucking hand. And it was almost like slow-mo. You could see the can going like
Oh
this.
my God.
And it knocked on the front of the corner of the counter and just all up in my face.
Oh no.
And it knocked the cap off, so it kept spraying. And like we had to evacuate the bowling alley.
Holy shit.
Like me and the bartender are sitting there with like wet towels over our fucking face. My eyes are all puffed out. And I get home and my roommate's like, dude, no means no.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck happened to you?
No means no.
Oh, I couldn't talk.
Oh
I couldn't see. I had a fucking fever the next day.
Oh my God.
So it's like, yeah, those cops got fucking hit pretty hard non-lethally, but ooh, that was a bad night for them.
Yeah, it had to be. That's too funny. All right, Kevin, you got any more thoughts for us before we wrap up?
No, other than, if you haven't seen this or if you haven't seen it in a long time, check it out. It's worth it.
Yeah,
Totally
and
worth it.
I'm going to go ahead, and you might think this old Blu-ray has a expired digital code. It does not. Now, I'm going to throw this up, but I'm also going to put the digital code on the screen right here. So on the finished video, you will actually see the typed out code right here.
Neat.
And you can go ahead and you can redeem that yourself. First person who gets it, it's yours, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's Terminator 2 Judgment Day with Jeff and Kev. 0-Point Reviews. Yeah.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby. We'll be back.
Baby.
Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at sunsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.